Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's live stream. No payrolls today because of the shutdown of the US government. So the non-farm payrolls, the monthly US unemployment numbers would normally be released today, or scheduled to be released today, but that's not happening. So there you go. Perhaps a bit of a quieter end to the week than we were expecting. Lots to talk about today, I think. I've had a really good couple of weeks trading, and it's been a good few months trading. There'll be some good trends. I'll talk a bit about some of my own trades today. I'm currently long the S&P, long the Nasdaq, long the FTSE, long the Spanish 35 IBEX. So and these markets have clearly got a bit of a move on over the last week. The FTSE in particular, has had quite the run. Since by the FTSE standards, it's done about 300 points since the third week of September. But we'll take a look at all of this. So if you're new to this, welcome. I normally do it on a Friday, this time 2:30 UK time on a Friday, and we'll take a look at some of the major events to watch out for next week, and then we'll go through the major markets. And if there's anything you want looking at, if you just put it in the chat, and we'll take a look at that. I haven't actually looked at the economic calendar for next week, so I'm just loading that up. But lots going on. We've got gold at all-time highs this week, S&P, Nasdaq all-time highs, FTSE all-time highs, DAX has woken up, oil is breaking down. There's a lot going on in all sorts of different directions. So we'll take a look at that. But before we do that, let's get some of the housekeeping out of the way. Risk warning. This presentation is only for education purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Okay, there we go. I said I'd do little bits of sort of trading education in these sessions, and I did. I run a WhatsApp group. I'll talk more about that later, but I do a monthly webinar in the WhatsApp group, and I try and come up with a different topic every time, because otherwise it'd be really boring to talk about the same thing every month. And we did one last night. So last night's topic, and if you want access to this webinar, it runs for about 40 minutes. And I give you access to the previous month's webinar as well. Just join the WhatsApp group. You can join for a month and try all this stuff out, but I'll talk more about this. But last night's session, I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks, what I had to unlearn to become profitable. I first started trading in 96 when I was 28. And I did the Society of Technical Analysts exam back then, the STA, and that's the official UK body for technical analysis. I now lecture on a couple of their modules. So I knew all the theory, and I thought I knew it all. I think like plenty of us do, perhaps in our 20s. And I wasn't profitable. I was up and down. My trading was up and down for many years. And there was stuff I had to unlearn to become profitable. And I talk about that in last night's webinar. Some of the three major things I had to change to become unprofitable. And I think the problem is, in the beginning, when we first start trading in the beginning, particularly in this day and age, actually, because there's all this information at our fingertips, it's very hard to know what to focus on when it comes to trading. I met somebody for the first time this week who, coincidentally, I didn't know it until I met them, they just started trading the S&P, and he was talking about all of the stuff that he was learning about, and I think there's so much stuff out there, and I think it's perhaps only further down the line you realise a lot of it is pretty irrelevant, but you don't know it until you go through it. And I did that from a technical and a trading point of view, absolutely. And we can spend, I think, particularly the appeal of trying to find the perfect system. We can spend all of our trading life trying to find the perfect system. And, the reality is there isn't a perfect system. And also, that doesn't matter that there isn't a perfect system. You just need to find a robust system that suits your trading style. And I was saying in a webinar last night, the approach I've got that I talk about on the WhatsApp group every day I don't think I'm ever going to change that. Because after nearly 30 years of trading, in the last, I don't know, probably 10 years, I've found the approach that fits well for me is a low stress way of trading, and is profitable over the medium and long term. It might not make money every week. It usually makes money every month, but it does have losing months. But over the course of a year, I fully expect to be profitable. And I think we can waste so much time in the beginning trying to find the perfect system, particularly in this day and age, because we have, all this stuff at our fingertips that I didn't have so much back then. But indicators, you can go through and play around with every indicator, can't you, to try and find the one that's right all the time. But it doesn't need to be right all the time. If I look at what's made the difference in my trading this month, the FTSE trades, I put this FTSE trade on the 19th of September. So I've been in the trade for 2 weeks now, and it's up about 250 points. It's up more than 2 times the risk for me. So that's, had a massive impact on my P&L, so, even if I did 10 trades in a month and 9 trades cancelled each other out in terms of wins versus losses, but one trade ends up making 2 to 3 times the risk in terms of profit, it's a massive impact on your P&L. And that's the thing, it's just a process. Not every trade you're gonna hit it out of the park in terms of profit. And that's most trades are pretty boring, but now and again, the idea for me is I latch into a good trend and it makes a big difference. And the FTSE trade has been the trade over the last couple of weeks that's done that, so that's done well. And that's the reality of trading, I think. Well, the reality for me anyway, there isn't a perfect system, but you don't need a perfect system. You just need I think a low stress way of trading, because if trading's causing you stress, it shouldn't be causing you stress. It's hard enough without getting stressed about it, but one that is robust and should try and catch reasonably big moves in the time frame you're trading. But I talked more about it in last night's session. So if you'd like to see the full thing, it's well worth 1 month subscription to the WhatsApp group, and you get a whole lot more than that anyway. So that's it. I thought I'd just drop in a few bits from there. Right, let's just have a look at the markets next week. What have we got coming out next week? I don't know when these payrolls are going to get rescheduled to. I'm not sure what's happening with those, but whatever. So next week we've got speeches from the ECB president and the Bank of England governor. What's that then? There must be some meeting going on next week. So fair enough, that's Monday. That might be interesting. Might be absolutely not interesting at all. We've got New Zealand Central Bank interest rate decision on Wednesday. Not that important, but important if you trade the New Zealand dollar, I suppose. Here we go. It's the big one for next week. It's the Fed minutes. So this seems to come around very quickly. Why is time whizzing past? Fed minutes at next Wednesday night, UK time. So the minutes from the last meeting where they set the interest rates. What do they think about the economy? Are there any clues in there? The future direction of interest rates, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. The Fed chair speaks on Thursday ahead of the market open. Could be some volatility off that. And then blah, blah, blah. That's it. So Wednesday evening, is it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday evening, Thursday afternoon is the interesting stuff, I think, for next week. So there we go. Okay, let's have a look. Right, let's take a look at these markets. I think it's been a really interesting week, US stock market, all-time highs yesterday. This is the S&P. I'm long the S&P at the moment from yesterday. I did talk about a new S&P system I'm trying out in last night's webinar as well, actually, so you get access to that. I'm going to do October's webinar will be the results of this S&P trading system that I've put in place that I've been running only for 4 weeks. But that's going to be October's webinar for those in the WhatsApp group anyway. So I'm long the S&P from yesterday anyway. And here we are, all-time highs yesterday in the S&P. What day is it? It's Thursday today, isn't it? So all-time highs in the S&P. No, it's Friday today. All-time highs in the S&P yesterday. All-time highs in the overnight market for the S&P, and all-time highs again in the in-session S&P. So it's all coming up roses for US stock markets. So US stock markets still strong. Obviously, I'd be a buyer of the dip, yeah, because there's our trend going back to those April lows. What have these markets done since the April lows then? hold on a second. So the April lows were at 4,800. I would do this in my head, but it is a Friday. 67.35 minus 4,800. So we've done 1,935 points. So it's up 40% since the April lows. Wow, there you go. So that's it. That's strong. I would buy the dip. You know, if I was thinking about stops, if I was trading it this afternoon, if I wasn't in already, I'd quite like a sell-off with a stop under yesterday's low, yesterday's in-session low, 66.90. But all positive there. The Nasdaq is the same. So Nasdaq, again, all-time highs yesterday, all-time highs overnight. A little bit of a more sluggish start today in the Nasdaq, but, you know, all positive. I would absolutely buy a dip in this market if we got, you know, perhaps we get some volatility on Wednesday night with the Fed minutes. Perhaps that'll be interesting if we see these markets take a bit of a knock. I'm in a Nasdaq trade at the moment. I talked about it in last night's webinar. I've been in since about the 24th of September. So it was against, so I'm in from, I don't know, 24,450, let's say. You know, it was, I nearly got stopped out. I came within 20 points of getting stopped out, but that's currently up about 500 points. And these are the sort of moves I'm going for. You know, I don't care about where the market's going to go in the next 10 minutes, although it's very exciting to watch it sometimes. That is not my trading approach, you know, and I do think if your approach is trying to make money in the next 20 minutes, you are on a hiding to nothing. You know, if there was 20 people stood in front of me and they said, right, I'm going to trade the Nasdaq, and my approach is close everything out within half an hour, I would take a 10 grand bet with 20, every one of those 20 people, that they are not going to be profitable, because chances are, you know, 18 of them are going to lose. Best case for them. You know, it's so hard. And I think, you know, one of the things I talk about last night is about widening your time frame. People are far too short term, but nobody listens, and most people still lose. Anyway, so I'm in the trade. Trends are up. Let's see where it all finishes. So that's it. You know, for US markets, the Dow is just making an all-time high now. Look at this. We're at a moment of history. So we haven't had the last all-time high on the Dow. It was only a week and a half ago, but it was up at 46.7, just above 46.723. How high has it been today? 46.734. So it's punched through by 10 points so far today. Let's see how it all pans out. But yeah, the Dow, a bit of a lagger, because less of the tech bias, obviously, with the Dow Jones index. But I thought it's interesting. Blah blah. There you go. They're all going up in it. So the DAX is interesting, and the DAX, the German market, has been quite boring, I would have said, for the last few months. You know, look at that, the DAX. This is going back to June. This is an hourly chart, chop. No direction, but in the last couple of days, boom. You know, we've had this massive move on the DAX. So it's gone from a low. Was that a week ago? Was it? Yeah, the 25th a week ago, wasn't it? Was it? Yeah, sounds about right. It's gone from a low a week ago, 23.4, to 1,000 points higher, and a bit more earlier on today. So the DAX for me is an interesting market next week. I am going to buy a dip. If I get a deeper dip, that'd be nice. So has it broken, finally shaken off this correction from the middle of August? So we're, 6-7 weeks into that. Has it shaken it off? That might get to be... I've just seen, I can't resist this question that's come in from Mark. What's your thought on a recession happening soon? FTSE and Dow Jones, all-time highs, certain stocks overpriced. Mark, there's a great saying, bull markets climb a wall of worry. Yeah, everyone, not everyone, but plenty of people are always worried about the next recession, how much higher can markets go, blah, 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 blah. Which is why most people, or not most people, but a lot of people will be going short into a market like this. But look, to pick up on your point, these markets are at all-time highs. How high can it go? Blah, 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 blah. Let's look at the S&P. And this was definitely one of my issues when I first started trading. The S&P made all-time highs in Jan 24, yeah? The S&P is now nearly 2,000 points higher than it was in Jan 24. So I'm sure if we could wind the clock back to Jan 24, there'd be plenty of people saying, oh, I can't go any higher, recession, political uncertainty, political instability, blah, blah, blah. And here we are at all-time highs. So for me, I do not overthink all that stuff. Yeah, there'll be plenty. There's always, if you Google stocks overpriced, every month, every week, you can find an article that says, you know, these really aren't going to go any higher. Here we go. Perfect. A month ago, as the US stock market smashes records, some investors fear it's overpriced. Trades at record high. Is Amazon, our Amazon, overpriced? Are high quality US large cap stocks overpriced? So again, it's the whole thing. Bull markets climb a wall of worry. And yeah, but for me, I don't care. I'm going to go with the trend. You know, and while the trend is up, if there is a recession around the corner, that's not going to be a secret, and that will be priced into the market. The market doesn't care. Look at the US government shutdown this week. I must admit, I've not followed much of that news, but the market doesn't care. The market's still going up. You know, so I think there's always something. There's absolutely always something to make us think, oh, can this go any higher? What we should do, what I do, is look to the market, and the market doesn't care. So yeah. I can never resist answering a question like that. So thanks for popping that one in. But you know, it's definitely something that made me miss out on plenty of major trends in the beginning. It is that sort of thing, thinking, oh, can it really go any higher? You know, and of course, markets can overshoot in both directions. You know, so markets can stay irrational longer than we can stay solvent, as the old saying goes. Okay, what are we talking about now? Can't even remember. I've lost my track. I should just stay focused. So FTSE, the DAX I was talking about, wasn't I? So say I'd buy the DAX. I think that's interesting. If the DAX come under pressure next week, I would absolutely buy the DAX. I'd like to have a, you know, at the moment, I don't know where my stop would be because it's moved so quickly in the last couple of days. But a sell-off in the DAX is an opportunity for me. FTSE, I'm long the FTSE, but I'd buy a dip next week. I've got a trailing stop on the FTSE. If the market sells off from here, I'd be taken out for my profit. But I'd quite happily buy a dip next week on the FTSE. Spain, I love this Spanish index. I got the Spain ETF. Never looked at it until about 3 or 4 months ago, and I've got a couple of Spain ETFs now in my pension. Great trend in the old Spanish. Oh la, there we go. Yeah. So interesting market, all-time highs again today. I'm in the trade there. I'd absolutely buy a dip on the Spanish. Nice market to trade. Never really looked at it before. Spain 35, the IBEX. So that's strong. And of course, clearly all this can change. Oh, what's the Australian? Aussie index. I should have bought that dip. I was waiting to buy that dip. That was an all-time high in the Aussie in August. Sold off a bit and it's popped a bit higher today. So all these global stock markets, on many of these global stock markets, you know, do look very strong. The French, of course, being as French as ever and being a little bit different to everything else, just shrugging a Gallic shrug from the French market as everything else hits all-time highs and the French is like, oh. So that's that. Hong Kong, I've missed this trend. I should have been in that loads of times, haven't been. There we are in the Hong Kong market. The Japan, the Nikkei, hit all-time highs today. Again, a great trend in the Nikkei off the May levels. So, you know, stock market's all still positive. I mean, I tend to look at the FTSE, the DAX, the NASDAQ, the S&P and the Spanish. That's what I look at, you know, but clearly wherever you are in the world, there's a market that might suit your time frame better and loads of interesting things going on, blah, blah. There we go. Something that isn't interesting is the dollar index. It's a real, the weather's horrible like that. It's a real, you know, just meandering around the dollar over recent months. No real direction, which has a knock-on effect, obviously, on many currency markets quoted against the dollar that look pretty boring too. So I don't have much to say about the dollar index. It's just, I wouldn't even do anything. So, yeah, it's just stuck in the middle of that range, really, isn't it? It's boring. I don't have anything interesting to say about that. Gold, all-time highs. What is interesting and what is a bit confusing, and again, I can't explain it, and I think, well, I don't have to explain it. I just got to try and trade it. You know, stock markets are so bullish, so the world's investors are embracing risk because stock markets are going up. But gold's at all-time highs as well, which is the classic, oh my God, the world's going to end trade. You know, gold is up. How much is gold up this year? Where did it end last year? Ended last year at 26.24. Oh, don't disconnect. 26.24. So we're at 38.82 minus 26.24. It's up 50%, is it? 47% for the year, gold. Why is gold going up and stock markets going up? Answers on a postcard. You know, fear of inflation, Political instability, global instability, I don't know. Dollar, hating the dollar, who knows? But it's very surprising. It's very rare. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's very rare we see such a bullish market, a bullish defensive market, traditionally defensive market, like gold, while stock markets are roaring away as well. Interesting times. I did trade gold this week. I got stopped out at break even on gold yesterday on that sell-off, and I would have bought back in, but I wasn't around, so blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but I'd buy gold. You know, I think 3,800-ish, 3,790, 3,800. At the moment, if I was a buyer, I'd want stops at least below there. It was a previous all-time high. Excuse me. Sold off on Tuesday. That's when I bought it, 38.18. 18 on Tuesday. Stops below 37.90. So I think that's still an interesting level for gold. So yeah, that's that. Silver got clobbered yesterday. Again, I was out, or I would have bought the dip in silver yesterday. Silver's at decade highs, I think, isn't it? Best levels since, we're getting really close, aren't we? Since May 2011. This is a big level, isn't it? 50 for silver, 1980 highs. What a great year 1980 was. And 2011 highs. And here we are. Is silver going to break through $50? Who knows? Let's see. Let's see what happens. But that trend is absolutely still strong at the moment. So be a buyer dip there. Bitcoin's been a bit boring, and until recently, you know, we had an all-time high in Bitcoin in the summer, in August. Are we going to see all-time highs for Bitcoin next week through 125? Let's see what happens. I'd buy the dip because the trend is up as usual. So let's see what happens there. Oil. So everything's bullish. Oil's interesting. I want to go short oil next week. So oil, the big trend for oil, or going back however many years, 3 years, 3.5 years, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Oil touches on this chart $130 a barrel. We're currently trading at 61. You know, so it's more than halved. The trend has been down for oil over the last 3.5 years, but there have been some big rallies along the way. The trend for the last 6 months has been pretty directionless. Oh, that's telling me I've got to move my S&P stop loss. Look at that, so efficient. I'll do that in a minute. What was I saying? So the trend for oil is sideways overall, but it's breaking down. This level, this on my chart, 61.80, had held the price of oil up, and it hasn't yesterday. So I think I want to sell oil short and see where it goes next. You know, so I do. You know, does it mean, are we going to go back to the May lows down around 56 on oil? So a little rally in oil would suit me just fine. And I'd like to go short with a stop probably above $63. So let's see how that works out. But I thought that was interesting, that break on oil this week, after being, you know, fairly sideways since August-ish, sort of here. This whole $61.80, $62.50 a barrel has held the price up, and not yesterday. So that's interesting to watch next week. Natural gas, hate this market, but I mean, we've got conflicting trends in natural gas. If you look on the dailies, yeah, the trend since Feb 24 is up. The trend since March 2025 is down. Is it breaking out of that downtrend, or is it a false break? Who knows? But that's interesting. I suppose it's a crazy market, but it's interesting going into next week. I'd probably buy a dip at the moment on natural gas. You know, I don't like trading it, but because it is just a bit crazy volatile. But it's an interesting one for next week. So oil and gas, both interesting for next week. And if we look at look at some of the currencies, clearly with the dollar so flat-ish, if you look at pound against the dollar, you know, that's trading where it was in May of this year, so five months ago. Euro dollar is, I mean, it did scrape to a new high for the year, but again, that's trading where it was in June. There's not much exciting going on in the markets against the dollar. Sterling yen, what did that do? I mean, I was in that trade for a bit. It did all right in the end. Took forever to get a move on. Oh, I don't know. Could argue being a buyer. What's dollar yen look like? Dollar yen, I guess, is it's all a bit just nothing, isn't it? What euro yen? What does euro yen look like? I mean, euro yen's got a nice little trend. That's interesting for next week. Euro yen, this 175 highs from last summer, a year last summer. Interesting to see what happens there. Oh, that could be. There's an argument for being a buyer there, isn't there? and seeing if it's going to have another run at that 175 level with the stop below 172 maybe on Euro Yen. So, let's see. Let's see what happens. I should have a look at that one. I'll pay a bit more attention to that next week. So, but yeah, that's sort of that. What else? Not much else, I think, is interesting. But I think there's enough going on, with stock markets so strong. I'm guessing this S&P is at fresh all-time highs again. Did it just touch it? Did it blip up there? Yeah, that's triggered my alert, wasn't it? Okay. So, cool. Stock markets are still strong. European stock markets quite strong. Asian stock markets are pretty strong as well. Gold and silver are strong. Oil's breaking down. Loads to look at. Interesting week next week. Let's see what happens. So what we'll do now, we'll look at the stuff that you want looking at. Quick plug for the WhatsApp group. So if you join the WhatsApp group, you get 20% off the first month. It'll cost you 40 quid. But for your £40, 40 English pounds, you'll get access to last night's webinar and the webinar from August. So you get access to 2 webinars, which are worth more than £40 because it's me and I know what I'm talking about. Okay, but on top of that, you also get daily update from me. I talk about all the trades I'm thinking about doing. I talk about other markets where I'm not going to trade them, but I think it's interesting. I do that in the morning, markets I'm watching, trades I'm running, when I move my stop loss, all of that. Q&A, if anyone's got any questions throughout the day, they can fire them in. I do an update in the afternoon for US markets. So I think it's well worth it. And most people who join stay in for about at least 7 months. So they like it. So you should like it. So you should join it and see. The link is in the description down below. Use the code YouTube and you get 20% off the first month, access to those webinars. And you can always cancel within a month if you don't like it. So it already costs you a month's subscription. I run a trading course, and also to find out who I trade with, go to bit.ly/David Trade. Any questions? I'm always happy to answer questions. Don't email me a question every other day. Join the WhatsApp group, you can ask me a question every other day. But any general questions, I'm more than happy to give you my opinion. I don't have all the answers, but I've been doing this a long time. So dj@davidjonestrading.co.uk. There we go. All of these links in the description. The main thing is the WhatsApp group. Join that. It's well worth it. Okay, let's have a look at some of the stuff you want looking at. It's all a bit volatile, isn't it, today? Oh, a little bit volatile anyway. Let's see. What was it going to do? Can we go over EPR? What is EPR? Never heard of them. EPR Properties? Is it EPR Properties, I'm guessing, which is a US property REIT, which is a real estate investment trust, isn't it? If that's the one you mean. If it's not, if you can give me the full name. I mean, I'd buy that. It's broken out. I'd buy it. I would have bought it, hindsight trade. I would have bought it down at 54, 53. At the moment, I'd buy it and I'd put a stop under 52. But I would have liked to be in a bit earlier. Yeah, but for me, I can't argue with the breakout there is interesting. So I'm going to assume it's a valid breakout and think we're going to go back up to at least 61.5, if not a bit higher. So yeah, I'd buy that. That is the one. Good. And Rocket Companies. Rocket Companies. What do they do? Finance, rental, leasing. Oh, that's interesting. All right, I'm intrigued. What does Rocket Companies actually do? Rocket Companies faces legal challenge. Faces challenges amid legal woes. Enable home ownership and financial freedom. What's all that about then? What's this legal woes? Trading down amidst negative sentiment, uncertainty. A quick overview. Oh God. There's a lot of words. There's a lot of words and no actual facts there. So I'm going to skip off that story. Anyway, Rocket. I'd probably buy them. They've been under pressure this week because of their legal woes, according to the AI written article. I'd be tempted to buy them. We had the highs from September 24. I mean, you could argue that looks like a false break. It kept pushing through, didn't it? So my trade would be, are we going to have another look at those highs? That would be my trade. So I wouldn't buy it yet because it was still weak yesterday. But I think that's an interesting one for next week, and I would want my stop actually probably below there, below $15.80. So I think that's interesting. So clearly it's been under a bit of pressure because of the news. What's the news? 2 reasons to like Rocket and 1 to stay skeptical. Okay, now under Rocket, why Rocket Companies is up to that. Okay, blah. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'd buy the dip on that, to be honest. Interesting to see what happens next week. What's your thoughts on recession? We did that, didn't we? Can we look at BMNR? Says Tenerife Kev. Hi Kev. BMNR, Bitmine Immersion, investor in Ethereum. Of course we can. Bitmine Immersion Technologies. That's a great name, isn't it? Oh, God. Well, wow, that is a long-term chart, isn't it? So they were 48 million, 480 million. That can't be right, can it? Well, anyway, okay. Let's say they were 480 million dollars a share. I'm sure this has perhaps all been adjusted because that's 1999. They weren't mining Bitcoin in 1999, were they? God, they were well ahead of the curve if they were. Maybe it's nothing to do with Bitcoin at all. Anyway, whatever. Blah blah blah. So what have they done more recently? Maybe they reversed into another company. Maybe that's what it is. God, that's crazy, isn't it? So 2021, 900 to 14. I mean, it's a casino stock, Kev, isn't it? That's what I would say. It is a place your bets and spin the wheel stock. I like it. I would go nowhere near it, but I like it. So just in July, it went from $4.60 to $160. How do people sleep at night with these stocks? I don't know. I'd buy it. I'd put a stop under 40. I'd never look at it again, and I'd hope to come back to it in 10 years' time, and it's back up to $480 million a share. That's what I would do. But yeah, I'd probably buy it in all seriousness. I mean, I wouldn't obviously because it's just too crazy for me. But yeah, I'd buy it. I mean, there is a rhythm, isn't there, on the hourly charts? There's a rhythm to it, But I'd probably want to stop below 40 and see what happens. But I'd be fully prepared to wake up and find out it was 4 cents or something, or $4 million. So yeah, crazy market. It's owned by fund manager Tom Lee. It's going to the moon, apparently. That's all we need to know, isn't it? That's it. Okay, I'm in. Yeah. What's the recent news been about it? Bitmine Immersion. Too volatile for me, but nice. Soars amid aggressive Ethereum accumulation. Okay. So aggressive Ethereum accumulation. Let's have a look at the price of Ethereum. I haven't looked at that for ages. Ethereum US dollar. What's that doing? Oh, it's near its all-time high. It's a bit of a lagger, isn't it, compared to Bitcoin? But it's near its all-time high at, let's call it 5,000 for sake of argument. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Don't know, but interesting one to look at. Ethereum. We've just looked at Ethereum. Next one is Ethereum. Yeah, we looked at Ethereum. I'd probably do nothing at the moment on Ethereum. I'd wait to see, do we get a proper breakout? What's going to happen? Yeah. If I had to do anything, I'd probably be a buyer with a stop under 33.50. But let's see. Let's see what happens there. And Uber. Let's look at Uber. Much more comfortable looking at Uber. I'm guessing they should have done quite well recently, shouldn't they? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Who'd have thought it? I remember when they floated Uber. Was it 2019 or 2018? 2019. That's done amazingly well, isn't it? Breaks out here. When did it break out? Jan 24 at $63. And it's up 50% since then. A bit of chopperama. I mean, I'd have to buy it, because of the trend and all of that. So I'd buy it. I'd put my stop probably at least the other side of 84. I'd be thinking on Uber. But it was only a week last Monday. It hit a fresh all-time high. So the trend is up. So I'd be a buyer. Interesting it's doing so well, isn't it? Oh, interesting to me anyway, because I mean, clearly, I think a lot of the hype has just disappeared, hasn't it? But clearly doing well. What's the recent numbers? Q2 2025 revenues of 12.65 billion, exceeded forecasts, growth in its user base, blah, 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 blah. There you go. The trend looks good. So I'd be a buyer going with that trend, I think, on Uber. Reverse stock split, yes, on that Bitminer thing, James. That's something like that. Someone went long euro yen this morning. Very good. Yeah, good luck with that. I mentioned this before, but QUBT, quantum computing. Oh yeah, I do remember looking at this before. Wow, that's yeah, volatile, isn't it? But yeah, we've definitely looked at that. I mean, this is the problem I have, you know, as I am quite a conservative trader and investor, which does perhaps go against the idea of trading where people think it's got to be loads of risk. But, you know, for me, I want to have sensible stop losses. If I was a buyer of quantum computing, I'd want a stop loss at $14 now, and the thing is trading at 23. So that's a $9 stop loss, isn't it? Which is that's a 40% stop loss pretty much. So it's too much of a stop loss for me. So I will never, or very rarely, be in these moonshot stocks because I just can't stomach the volatility, you know. So yeah, but good luck to anybody who's in it. But no, that's an interesting one. Interesting to see what happens up at 27, the old highs. Do we see people start to bottle it up there, to use a technical term, and start to take some profits or whatever they want to do? Interesting, talking about moonshot crazy stocks. I was looking at AMC yesterday. You know, the old AMC Entertainment from the GameStop days and all the meme stocks. Look where they are. What the heck happened to them? $3. And they were nearly $400 in June 21 off the back of all the hype. And obviously it was all, you know, it was crazy times, wasn't it? Those meme stocks. Absolutely nuts. But I was quite surprised to see old AMC down there. Where's the GameStop? Are people still keeping the faith in GameStop? Yeah, it's just done nothing, is it? Interesting to revisit some of these previous nutty stocks. But again, I'd never be in stocks like this because they're too crazy. You know, too crazy for me. So QBTS D-Wave, just bought this in my SIP. QBTS. It's all the Q's today, isn't it? D-Wave Quantum. Love the name. Should start a company, D-Wave Quantum Trading. That would be, and just say you're a secretive trading company. That's got to be able to raise a few £100 million. If you did that on Kickstarter or whatever it is. What do you reckon? Wow, that is a crazy one, isn't it? Yeah, it's another one. I mean, a fantastic run since a year ago. You could pay less than $1 a year ago, and today they're $31. So yeah, massive volatility again, isn't it? But again, if I was a buyer, $14, which is more than a 50% stop loss. I mean, an aggressive stop. If we were going to trade it now and jump in and out today, I suppose a stop under yesterday's low. But yesterday's low is still $26. That's still 15% lower than where the market is now. Interesting to see how it goes. Let's come back to them in a few weeks or a few months' time. Some of those madly volatile stocks, and see how it is. Have the STA updated their syllabus, Society of Technical Analysts? I've downloaded a copy of it and it seems out of date with charts dating back to the 40s. Oh dear. CMT is much worse. Yeah, I mean, I do 2 of the lectures for the STA, and all the charts in the lectures are within the last 12 months. And I think that is the rule for all the lecturers, that your charts have to be within the last two years. That's 12 months. That's 12 months. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, where you've downloaded that from, it's probably some historical document, but it is pretty. Yeah, it's up to date. Up to date. Can we check Ionic? IONQ. We're doing crazy stocks now, are we? Because it's Friday afternoon and there's been no payrolls, so we've got to entertain ourselves. We've looked at those before, haven't we? Because I've got a line on it. So I've got a line on it. So I would have bought them there, obviously, at 37, and I'd have been out at 75. I'd have doubled my money in 2 months because I'm such an ace trader. Yeah, nice move though. I mean, breakout again, another vicious stock, isn't it? What do they do? Computer processing hardware. Yeah, I'd buy it. Don't know where my stop would go. 50 maybe, which is still nearly $20 below where it is now. I just stick to my nice boring markets like the S&P and the Nasdaq and the old Spanish. That's what I'm going to stick to. I can't take my heart can't take the excitement of those sort of things. Bit volatile in the US today. It might be an interesting afternoon if we see these US markets sell off a bit. And that's it, isn't it? We're all done, aren't we? So that was good. Some fun things this afternoon. So don't forget, join the WhatsApp group. Pay some money for all the fantastic insight you get, and you'll have access to those 2 webinars. I think the webinar last night, it was all about what I've changed. I lost money for a good 6 years, or made money, lost money when I first started, and I had to change some really basic things in hindsight. And I think it's something we all go through in the beginning. And the reality is most people don't make it past that losing period. I think the average duration of a trading account is about a year or so, just over a year. And then the client goes dormant because they see, it's a little bit harder than I thought it was, this trading lark. But I think if you can get through that difficult first period, You know, it can make a difference. But if you join the WhatsApp group, you get loads of help with that. Otherwise, blah, blah, blah. We're all done. Have a good weekend. And I won't be here next week, actually. I've got to go, unfortunately, to a funeral next week. So I'll be back in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks' time, we'll back again, see where these markets are, see where these, non-farm payrolls get released, whenever that is. And that's it. Yeah, so for those of you in the WhatsApp group, I will jump in and do an afternoon update in an hour, and we'll see where everything is. Okay, thanks for coming along. Good luck with trading. See you next time.